Everybody, happy Thursday. Hopefully, everybody had a good trading week so far. We have one trading day left. This Thursday live stream is really to go over the markets, looking at the technical side and the flow side of things with our guest, Sean from Shark of Traders, to really highlight how to use Unusual Whales and TrendSpider together. So, without further ado, I will hand it off to Sean to introduce himself as well as Unusual Whales, and we'll jump right into the charts and the flow.
All right, thank you so much, Jake. Hey everyone, my name's Sean the Shark here. I just want to kind of show you guys how I go about my trading and how I utilize unusual whales on a daily basis along with TrendSpider. One really cool thing is I'm just going to kind of dive right into it. One really cool thing about unusual whales is there's so much just so much options, right? So here, when you go through different things, they've updated the website. Things are absolutely beautiful, but you can get in here, you can see unusual alerts. A lot of people go and they use it for the flow. They like to see what's happening throughout the entire options ocean. And what's really nice is with the flow, you get to see everything. And then we'll dive in a little bit deeper into their filter, which is absolutely amazing. They have different breakdowns here that kind of show you what's going on and all that kind of stuff. Their news is absolutely amazing. And then they also give you a performance, right? They tell you how good they've done and how bad they've done and what days to focus on. It's kind of funny. I actually love it. Ever since I've been trading for about 10 years on a full-time basis. Whale obviously is a little bit new tool to me, and it's something that I've started using in the last year, but it has had substantial improvement on my percentage gain. And it just kind of gives me a little bit of a heads up when there might be some unusual volume, like we'll get into today, or unusual option activity that kind of alerts you, right? That kind of gives you this eye that might be some kind of price action following, right? Either up or down. For me, I'm not a bull, I'm not a bear. I like to say it that I'm a shark. I just play price action, and whatever can kind of give me a little bit of a leg up in the sense of either data, information, any of that kind of stuff, I always love it. So we're going to kind of show you guys some other tools that are here. One thing, if you're new, or if you're someone that's newer to unusual whales, you need to make sure for sure. The one thing that I tell everyone, you need to go to the emoji legend, and you need to learn the emoji legend like the back of your hand. You got to almost study it. When I first started, I printed this out and put it right on my whiteboard so that I knew every single time when these kind of beautiful alerts came in and you saw it, I knew how to break it down properly, right? So just everyone, if you're even going through this, I recommend bringing this up, have it in a separate screen, or if you don't have time, it's okay, spend some time here. But what's really cool too is within the emoji legend, they break things down. They have certain sectors too. So say if you're somebody that just likes to play crypto, they'll give you crypto alerts. If you like to maybe go against what Kramer says, here's a bunch of stuff that Kramer's talked about, right? If you want to be focusing and even seeing what's going on with a lot of China alerts, right? Here we go. It's absolutely amazing. And actually, this is one that we'll even talk about. But anyways, I hope everyone kind of gets into this. The first and foremost that you guys have to learn when it comes to the emojis, and we'll go to the flow first, is you got to understand what this bid is, and you got to understand what this ask is, and then you need to look for the proper comparison. Okay, so when I'm looking to be possibly going into either a put on the buying side, or I'm looking for a put or a call on the buying side too, I'm looking for the ask, and it's a shopping bag. And what it's showing you is somebody is buying that put, right? So I'm looking for a combination of a bearish alert combined with an ask, okay? And then at the same time, I'm looking for a bullish alert that's combined with an ask that's also going to show someone is buying a call, okay? When I see the bids, and that's with a bone on it, I like to take into consideration. Actually, when I was trading Microsoft, there was an extremely big option alert that came in under Unusual Whale for a bid, and basically, I decided that I sold my commons because in my mind it was a large enough premium that somebody thought that the movement on Microsoft was somewhat over. So I went ahead and I did it, and I followed through and almost basically called the top. So when I am, and how I kind of look at this is when I see this bid come in my mind, it's kind of like there's no more meat left on the bone for that trade. Whoever was trading that specific option, right? There's just no more meat really left on it. So that's why they're selling a put. You'll see a bullish emoji, it's because someone is selling that put. So and on the bid side, right? Not on the ask side. So just making sure that you're checking that out. And they even have that broken down for you, right, in the extras area, in the emoji legend. When you go to it on the bear side, and then when you get to the ask and stuff like that, that I think is sorry. But it's on here, so I just don't know exactly where. Oh, here we go. There we go. So on the ask guide, likely a bot, right? And then when you see the bone, I just don't know exactly what these are because I have them memorized now. But when you see the bone, it's likely a sell. But anyways, some people do things differently. So now we're going to get into it. So like I said, the flow is amazing, right? I actually love this filter because first of all, if you go down, you actually read what everything is, right? This says this is all the orders from the options feed, the entire ocean of options, and it's a lot, right? So for me, it sometimes feels like I can get hit with waves. So what I like to do is I like to kind of filter out the noise, right? So if I don't want to see the SPY, right? If I want to filter it out, which is really cool, you actually have the minus, so you can minus it out. And you can say, okay, I don't want to see that. There's too much. I don't want to see SPX. There's too much. And then, you can kind of keep going. And then on the same route, right? If you're looking for specific plays like BLNK, you can kind of type in BLNK and then see what the flow is. But one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you how I go about the using Unusual Whale on a daily basis. So they have this section called the whale alerts. The whale alerts for me is something that gives me kind of heads up first. So my first step, right, is analyzing these whale alerts. Now, the most important thing to me is the daily volume, right? That's one. Then I'm looking for differential. At this point in time, I'm not really looking for lotto plays or things that are extremely out of the money. I actually like something that's either closer to in the money or, ITM or at the money. Even if it goes about 5 to 10% in the money, I'm totally okay with it. I'm also looking for something usually with an IV of 75 or lower. 100 is my threshold that if it breaks 100, I don't want to be really trading that because it's just too packed in with the price. But if the IV even at 85, I'll consider it, but I'm usually looking for something at 75 or lower. And then at the same time, the last one is expiration, right? I'm really making sure that I get into expiration. I don't want to play something on the weeklies. I want to give myself a minimum of a 30-day window, usually maybe 60 days. But at this point, I just don't want to play something too close. I give myself opportunity, right? So when I do go about these and I see things that are interesting to me like this, you can go ahead and dive deep into it, right? It's awesome. Like I said, there's so much options within the whale platform. And then the one thing that I always like to compare, I want to see what my delta is in comparison to my theta. I usually minimum like a 15-to-1 differential. So this one I don't necessarily like, but what's really cool is you can check that out. And then afterwards, you also get to see within Novax, right? And NVX. You can go and see what's the big option trades, historical volume, big dark pool movements, and then also even really cool, what kind of senators have had transactions on it. And then you get into your chain data. What's even awesome with them too, if you're even new with options, is you can go ahead and check out different strategies within this certain, I think this is a put that we're talking about. So they have different options, long calls, long puts. So they explain the different strategies for you as well. So I know that was a little long-winded of explaining everything, but that's how I go about finding first my alerts. So perfect example, we're going to go ahead and show you guys a couple things that have came up. For those that followed me and those that are new, like I'm Sharker Traders, you can go to my Twitter and you'll be able to see this video. But this low option came in and we broke this down on Monday and I played it and I've been, it's been winning for me. This one came in, the daily volume was huge, right? Huge. I was like, okay, so that opened my eyes. I like that it fell within my differential. I was like, okay, perfect. That's what I'm talking about. Low IV, I like it. Now it's a little bit closer. I wish the expiration was a little bit further out, but you can also, what's really cool with the options calculator, you can go ahead and type in low and see what other comparative theta and delta and low IVs with it maybe a longer expiration. But this was one that when it came around, I was like, okay, I like it, right? This one fired off, and when it fired off at 11.95, I was like, awesome. The biggest thing that when I saw this, I was like, okay, now I have to dive deep. And the most important thing about all of this, right, is making sure you're doing the technical analysis. And the technical analysis is really my confirmation. I I said, the Unusual Whale is an amazing tool. I use them every single day, but just like I use TrendSpider, right? But for me, the chart is basically everything, and I have to make sure that there's some confirmations. Now, like I said, we are on Thursday, right? So this came in at the 18th. Now for me, Monday and Friday are the most lucrative days. And you'll even see that when you go to check out their performance. The most lucrative days when you're doing your hunt is going to be Monday or Friday. And that's why I pay the biggest attention. So when I see big movement and big money flowing in on a Monday in a particular stock, I'm very interested, right? So basically this came in on Monday. And then what I told myself was, if this breaks, and we can break into it a little bit deeper on the intraday for a move on the 18th. What I was doing was I watched this, and what I loved on the 18th, and what really gave me that confirmation I'm going to be getting into this on the 19th, was this humongous volume spike, right? That was even higher than our volume spike in the morning. And this volume spike was kind of settled, but then we had some kind of movement in the morning. So it gave me my confirmation. Another thing is on the MACD, we started having, sorry, we'll get here to the daily really quick. I like my MACDs and stuff. So my other thing is on the 12th, a MACD cross. And then we just continued to have an increasing histogram, right? Very important to me. On top of it, we had a TTM squeeze break on the 15th. So when we had a TTM squeeze break on the 15th, I even broke down in my video that when I saw this alert on the 18th, it really showed me that there was going to be some kind of directional movement, right? And with it already breaking out of the upper Bollinger Bands, there was a high probability that with an increasing histogram on both your MACD and your TTM squeeze, I was going to be very confident with my long or my call position like we did. And then I actually ended up exiting it today, right, at 16. But what's the beautiful thing, for a $6 move, 50% move, right, in just a couple days. And so that's kind of the stuff that I'm showing you in the power of Whale too, in comparison to making sure that you're checking things with TrendSpider. For me, with this movement too, was it crossed the POC. And I actually learned this from Jake himself, right? That this is the point of control, right? Where the most money is spent for whatever your period of time is. But when I saw this break, it was for me, it was one of those things that was showing that there was a lot of volume on the upside, especially here, because it basically broke on these volume candles. So the next day, it just showed me that as long as I use this as my base, as my stop loss, I was okay with taking this long, and it's been kind of paying out. So I'm sorry, Jake, I know that was a little bit long-winded, right? But I was just kind of showing some steps and just a kind of a quick case study in how low came across on Monday, and kind of shown some significant movement. Also, I don't know if anybody here is a whale prescriber, but there was a lot of Chinese alerts that come in, and I showed you guys that one. We'll talk about it. These Chinese ADR, a lot of alerts came in on the 19th, and this DD one was one that we talked about, right? Came in here. Oh no, sorry, this is the one on the 19th. This 9 call, 6 figures is what I'm talking about. A little 5%, which is what I'm talking about in percentage of. I don't want anything larger than that, but it's right in my realm, right? Now the IV is what is right where I want it. Now we got in on this before the IV spike, right? And that's what you're looking for, right? So when we dove into it, it was something that was alerted at 23, and then literally, you know, the peak of it ran all the way to $1. So that literally was almost a 400% return. So these are the kind of plays that you can find. I love the data, the delta to theta ratio. So this is one that we kind of alerted within our community too. But the power of Whale is there, but making sure that you're charting it is actually, for me, probably the most important thing, right? And DD, the confirmation on DD came when we made a new high, right? So it was alerted on the 19th. Sorry, it was alerted here on the 19th. And then what I was waiting for, so we had this big pullback. My idea was I will use this break, I'll go long, right? And I'll use the low of this day, or at the same time, the 200-day moving average as my stop loss, right? So once this broke here, I was okay. And then it kind of bounced beautifully off the 13 and then it just kept going. So today I took profits. I don't like to kind of play into Friday at all. But these are kind of some just kind of case studies that even just this week of using Whale. And Whale also isn't just a options tool. Some people think it's all about options. If you also follow Whale, like I follow you, Jake, right? You post amazing charts all the time, and it gives me heads up all the time. You were even speaking about IWM the other day, right? Well, Whale on the 20th talked about DWAC and this huge volume spike, and this was about a I think it was a 10-to-1. Oh, no, sorry. Almost an 8-to-1 ratio, right? And that came in during the middle of the day, right before close on the 20th. And then today, if you guys saw DWAC, I don't know who played that, but I did today, actually. So that's why I kind of wanted to see it really quick, was on DWAC. It was on my radar because of that big alert. And then today, what I wanted to do was I was waiting for price action, right? And this is what's huge about having the charting, was I watched it and I saw volume decrease, right? But volume was decreasing and diverging from price action. Okay. So when I was saying that, I was like, okay, the first move of a big volume spike that is higher, right? Or breaks my moving average on my volume, I'm getting in. And it did here. And once it got in here and we broke this last little hump, I went long, and I've been long ever since around 23. I got in at this level, and I can't believe the move today. So like I said, sorry, Jake, for talking so long, but really both of the tools, both of you guys are awesome. And how I use TrendSpider, I use your TTM squeeze break, which is absolutely something I love. The Bollinger Bands is something that I always follow, and I'm a MACD kind of trader. I wait for my stochastic as my heads up, but my MACD is usually my confirmation.
Love it. So one thing I have a question on, what is the differential or what you were mentioning? You were looking for a specific differential percentage. What exactly is that differential based on?
Delta to theta. Oh, so
okay.
my differential. Yes. Perfect example. Yeah. So it's your strike to your underlying, right? Okay. So I'm looking, I don't want something too far out of the money, right? Because that's when people are paying for really cheap options. And at times people will not understand when the price movement will have a certain move and your stock in your option doesn't move that much because your delta is so low, right? So when I am looking for something, I'm basically looking for a differential on both realms. So if it's a bullish call, my max differential that I'll take out is a 10%. So this IWM fits perfectly, right? 7% differential, which means when it's a bullish call and you see a 7% differential, it means that your call is 7% higher than your current underlying. And that is something that I do follow. And then same time at the bearish. So when it's a bearish ask, I am looking for a negative 5% ideally, but I won't play anything larger than a negative 10 because it's a put, right? So this is $50. So this is 4% out of the money of the current underlying stock when it was alerted. So that's just kind of what I'm looking for. For a long time, Whale was able to give some amazing directional plays too, but that's also when things were very, very bullish. But actually of late, it's kind of been able to tell me a little bit of a story, right? Where I've been able to kind of read these alerts, go through them, see what the kind of action was for the day, and have a pretty good idea when things might start to turn around, right? Maybe when the put to call ratio is too leveraged in one way, right? Where maybe there are a lot, like perfect example, when we were having this time in October, the put to call ratio was getting so extreme when we were starting to come down in September, okay? To the point where there was all these puts being built in rather than calls. And what I was starting to notice was there was a lot of these opportunities where there was built up stop losses because there were so many calls in the out there in the option world. And what was happening is some of this movement on low volume was just some of these humongous puts against the entire realm of the market, kind of stop losses getting taken out. Now that is come back down to normal where it was before. Actually, the call ratio is starting to greatly improve, and it has been greatly improved. But you can also look for kind of that contrarian play, right? When every single person is saying that things are going to fall to the floor, right? Well, that means there's so much leverage on one side that a little bit of volume on the other side will pop out stop losses, and you'll start to get some significant price action like we did. I mean, we've had some significant price action on the SPY on lower volume each day, right? And we've had gap ups. And so that's kind of, and at this realm, the put to call ratio was almost at 2 to 1. Right. Wow. So there was literally almost double the puts being bought at that time to calls. And I think everyone was envisioning this impending doom too. And then all of a sudden, a little bit of rally, a little bit of good news, kind of breaks those stop losses. People panic. And then, even now the VIX has completely lowered. It's even trading, I think, at like 15 now. So so that's basically what I do look for, right? I am looking for differential. And I always, for me, one thing I want to check to see what the daily breadth is, right? What's the daily market breadth? What was it actually happening within the day? That kind of stuff. We can kind of dive into it. Sorry, right now I don't know why it's being funky, but this is kind of where I start, and that differential is kind of where I focus on, right? And then like these ones, for me, it's just a little bit too far. It's a put. It fits my money, but it's so far out of the money that when you dive deep into it, your delta is just not that high, right? And in comparison, especially to your theta. So that's just kind of what I like to do when I do my analysis.
Makes sense. So you said a 15 ratio. So you're looking for your delta to be 15 times greater than your theta, essentially.
Yes. And that's kind of usually, I mean, I have, and I will go down to a 10 to 1, but I will not go any deeper. But that's because I've been playing options for an extended period of time, and I kind of know what to do. And especially if I'm playing on the day, I don't care as much, but I actually don't want to be playing anything lower than a 25 theta, 0.25. I like to play delta. I like to play everything higher than a 0.25 delta. Usually, especially at this point in time, and this is what I will get into that lows option really quick. And this is, we broke it down for our community because it was something that came across to me that was juicy. It was amazing. So for me, if you were going to get into 100 shares here, this is going to cost you 22,000, right? And for one lot, right, one call, it's going to cost you about 1,100. But look at this delta, okay? And the theta is awesome. So you're basically, yes, you're paying a good amount of money, but at the same time, this option is basically moving almost identical to your underlying, except for each time the underlying just moves $1, you're basically getting a 10% move on your ask. And I was basically telling people, even with these options, because they're quicker out, there is volume out there. You could be playing these for a quick 10% scalp on a daily, where the 1%, the $1 move on lows is pretty predictable when they bounce off certain levels, and you could just be playing it for the bounce for a $1 move, and this option is going to give you 10% on a scalp, which is crazy. Think about that, a scalp, and you're getting 10%. So this is why I was telling everyone to really dive in deep to it. Many people in the community, like I said, I actually held for a $6 gain, got 50% gain on it, but some other people held, and other people were scalping. They couldn't believe how many times they were able to scalp for a $1 gain and then get a 10% move on their options. So that's why making sure, for me, the delta is so important. And this one's awesome. Look at this delta and the implied volatility. So you're not even really paying for that much. That's why for me, this is amazing. When I saw this comparison, basically every $1 move, I'm basically getting a 10% move in my underlying, and my theta for me is beautiful. So this was one that we played. People played it amazingly. I gave everyone this on Monday because when it came by, the money was right what I talk about. Right, it was in the money, right? The differential was, it was in the money, and I'm okay with that. I don't want, the maximum I'll do is 10% out of the money. I look for hopefully something 5% out of the money, but when it's at the money or in the money, I'm okay with it. And because you get this delta to theta ratio, and I want right now, just because of how the market's moving, well, not right now, but before in October, I wanted my option to move closer to my underlying stock.
Makes sense. And so For those that aren't familiar with delta and theta, can you explain just a little bit about that side of the options for those that may be wondering what those two Greeks are in the option side of things?
Yeah, no problem. So basically delta is for every dollar move, right? And your underlying, your option is going to move that much, right? And why having a good delta to theta ratio is so important is because where options are different, okay, is your underlying stock could maybe have a flat day where literally it doesn't move at all. So it goes up, you have a doji, right? So it started at 221.82 and then it closed the day at 221.82 and your P&L is completely flat. Well, the difference is with options is you have this thing called theta. And every single day you're losing this much on this option, right? It's your time decay, okay? So that's why it's so important for me to be having a proper theta to delta ratio. When we go ahead and dive into some other alerts, right, that are maybe too close, okay, let's do something maybe closer on a weekly or something like this. This one's probably not going to be as bad. But even, okay, perfect example, okay? This delta to theta ratio is basically 3-to-1, okay? So if your underlying doesn't move, say if it stays flat, okay, your option is losing 30% every single day, even though your underlying didn't lose $1, okay? At the same time, every every 3 days, okay, you're basically at this point, if USO doesn't continue to go up, this is your theta is just going to eat you alive, right? Because your delta is nothing. So for every single dollar this moves, you're losing 30% of that if you hold it overnight. So that's kind of why I make sure that I always have a good ratio, especially on swing plays and that kind of stuff. I just don't want, and there are plays out there, if you don't pay attention to it, that your delta could actually be lower than your theta. So even though your delta is moving up maybe $1 every single day, you could actually be losing money on your option. And a lot of people don't understand that because what people want to do is they want to pay for cheap, right? And what cheap is going to get you is going to get you a higher theta to delta ratio. And ultimately this option you won't allow it to really come to fruition or come to the large P&L that you're looking for, especially like something where we broke down where this delta theta ratio is basically 3-to-1, where Lowe's was almost a 90-to-1, right? So for me, that's why it's so important.
Is there a ratio on Unusual Whales to look at the delta theta ratio? That would be very interesting. Or do you have to do it manually, just looking at the delta versus theta?
I know that they're working on that, but it's also pretty cool because in the OPC they have like a bunch of different stuff. So if you wanted to get into the OPC and type in, IWM, and then say you wanted to go for calls, they have all this kind of stuff, and then you can start to market. Say, what do you want to look for, right? Do you want to look for in particular your theta? And you could, I mean, for me, I kind of ear market, so that's like a 0.70 theta there, and then when I go to my delta see, perfect example, right? Your theta on that one is more than your delta, okay? Your delta here is 0.53. Your theta is a 0.76. So if I mean, obviously it's Tesla, right? Or it's IWM actually. Actually, I don't even know what one I'm looking at.
I think you accidentally typed in IMW.
Yeah. But it's also like extreme amount of money. Sorry, that's why I scrolled down. But it's just what I was just trying to basically show is the theta delta ratio on that one just isn't really what you want to be looking for. So I'm sorry, I was doing Tesla. I just didn't press the enter.
I think you're in.
But that's basically one that you can kind of look into. But I don't know. I don't really do it in Excel too much. I don't know. I kind of just do it usually in my mind, but I always making sure. So when I do have these, like perfect example, this one came in, right? And I wanted to kind of show you guys, right? I like the delta to theta ratio, not bad. And that's why you just got to always kind of, for me, I always dive into the actual alerts. They're coming out with a bunch of stuff like Whale. I'll be honest, they are constantly improving. And that's actually something that I can go ahead and recommend to him, that he can maybe add a delta to theta ratio on here. And they're really great. They work with their, the community, the retail trader, to make sure that they try to get the best product out for everyone. But that's why for me, I always make sure I dive deep into it, right? There are different ones where, you know, Snap was crazy. Perfect example, actually. Let me show you where things start to tell a story. Okay, so remember in September when everyone was getting really scared and the market was turning and it was bloody and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, what's nice is, well, I always go heavy in cash leading into September. So I actually was all in 100% cash leading into August. Leading into September at August 20, I think August 23rd or 7th or something like that. But I just decided that last week of August, I was going to hold all cash and kind of see what was out there. This alert actually came into me, right? So CCJ, it's a uranium stock. The market was kind of in a little bit of, not like turmoil, but in a little bit of uncertainty. There wasn't a lot of a directional movement. And even on the alerts, they were a little bit scarce, right? But then this one came in, this huge $2.3 million alert for CCJ, right? So what I did was I was like, interesting. I want to go ahead and dive into CCJ. And when I kind of show you guys the different stuff, I mean, I did like the delta to theta ratio, but let me show you. So basically CCJ came in September, while the rest of the market was doing very bad. And look what CCJ did. That was a September 2nd alert. It came in on came in on 9/2, right? And I knew plenty of people that played this thing up, waited for it to dip down and played it back up, right? And look at this, right? So it just ran on the second, just ran all the way up, right? And we had plenty of people that played that thing up and sold it, I think, after a couple of days. And then when it came back to its middle Bollinger Band, played it right back up again. So, and what I was noticing basically,
something I think is really visually interesting here is, because this is the options price chart that you just showed, right? So if you go to TrendSpider, I think this is just a good example of theta. So if you go to the TrendSpider chart, notice how CCJ is hitting higher highs, but if you look at the options premium price, you actually double topped there. So that's a good example, because a lot of people look at options. I see this all the time. Well, it's higher than it was. Why is the premium not as high? And it's hard to do a visual of that, but this is a good example where you're hitting a higher high here from what you initially had, September
2nd is when the alert came in right here.
Yeah, but then what I'm looking at is the two peaks. So you've got your main peak on the 7th, and then your second peak is a higher high there. But then if you go back to the CCJ premium options premium, the premium actually is at a lower price, which is just an interesting visual of how theta kicks in, and you can have a higher spot price, but actually the premium won't change. So that's really cool. I didn't know that the options prices were on there, because it is hard to find options pricing and seeing that on a chart. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, and you can kind of dive deep in. Oh, sorry, this was the wrong one. But yeah, you can kind of dive deep in, and they kind of give you exactly. And that options calculator they just came out with is absolutely amazing. I would love to dive deeper into it, but it's so new that I haven't even had enough time really to kind of spend, diving deep into it. But yeah, I mean, it kind of just tells you and that's what I like about options is I like to just kind of see where money's flowing in and out of the market. I am, like I said, I'm about a 50-50 underlying to options trader. If the option for me is, and that was the big alert right here, right? Sorry, actually, no, right here, this big alert, this $2 million alert. And then just it kept happening, right? So $2 million alert came in, right? Another one on the 3rd, right? Next day, a $1 million alert, right? And then people just selling calls, right? So I kind of took note, but it kind of kept happening where CCJ was kind of that play throughout September for me. And then, all of a sudden the entire other market, the market decided to kind of pick back up too, which is awesome. But no, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, that's what's really cool too. So like, perfect example, if you say I just want to look at the whale alerts for IWM, right? You can kind of see, okay, so we got a big alert today. The differential is good. You got a bullish ask, not bad, right? So let's go ahead and dive deep into it, right? And then one thing that you're going to notice immediately, this is where, at least just for this option, this is where I like IWM a lot, especially the chart right now. But I would just look for a better delta to theta ratio. That's just all I would do, right? For me, everyone's different, but I want to make sure that I don't burn money or throw it in the trash in the sense. And if you're not familiar with options and you aren't familiar with theta, especially, and you're looking for swings and that kind of stuff, you just can get burned very quickly because your stock could be moving in the right direction. You could have gotten in and charted everything perfectly, but if you picked the wrong option, then it can burn you heavily too.
Yep. No, that's always a fun one. Getting the move right and then you pick the wrong option. So yeah, let's turn it over to my chart for a second. I just want to kind of go over the bull thesis on IWM and then kind of see what kind of flow you're seeing. So on my chart, I'm just really looking at the long-term 20-year chart really on IWM and looking at the monthly candles. Now we still have what do we have? 6 trading days left in October. Yeah, so 6 trading days left in October. So you can't look at the monthly candle too much, but you can start looking at it. We've got this huge bull flag here right at this previous resistance, which is now highlighted in green because you have this acting as support multiple times over the last couple months. And what's interesting is, one, you've got the bull flag, which is a technical kind of check mark there. 2, you've got the seasonality. So looking back since 2009, which was the financial crisis bottom, you have a 92% win rate in November. So that means that 92% of the time, November closes higher than October over the last 13 years. So you've got the seasonality, but then you also have what I like to call just full time frame continuity, which is something that the term I learned from Rob Smith with the strat, where you're just looking at everything needs to be in line. So you're looking for all of your time frames to either be full red or full green. And you can use that using the SMART checklist. So if you go to the SMART checklist and you just type in full, if I can spell full time frame continuity for a swing trader or a position trader, you're definitely wanting to look at the monthly, the weekly, the daily. And I have the 65-minute candle in here too. And you'll see here, if we use the current candle, all of these are in green. That means that the current monthly candle is green. The current weekly candle is green. The current daily candle is green. And in the shorter term time frame, the 65-minute candle closed green today. So you've got all of these technical and non-technical variables aligning here. And I'm just curious, is the flow agreeing with this? Is flow saying something else? And how are you kind of able to distinguish, what is possibly, a hedge on someone's $500 million, $1 billion position versus what's actually probably a directional speculative trade?
That's a very good question. So first of all, I'm kind of with you. I do like IWM. One thing that IWM, and I've actually kind of waiting for this, right? And this is why I love it. If you guys don't know this already, the BB/KC squeeze on TrendSpider has been working wonders for me. The last time the IWM did a TTM squeeze, look at this, guys. It broke out here at 227, right? And then ran and then ran on that. So I'm kind of looking for that same movement, right? If we kind of can get that. But when I kind of look into, and that's kind of on the weekend, and I am liking that because it's just, when I see something channeling for this long, I'm looking for, and I'm expecting some kind of directional movement. And this is when we can kind of dive deep a little bit deeper, right? So first thing that I want to do is I want to go and I want to check out the flow just in general, see what kind of flow was today. I like to check out big whales. I like to kind of see what stuff was out there, right? And then after I've seen this, which actually I'm seeing a little bit more on the bearish side, but this is just first alerts at the end of the day, because this is what's so important, right? The put to call ratio, and then what is happening, and then really what are your premium and your calls, okay? So when I'm seeing basically your put to call ratio is 0.88. So it is getting leveraged a little bit more on the calls on the put side. But for me, I actually sometimes like that because, like I said, there are more stop losses ahead on the upside. So if we do have some volume moving in one direction, you're usually going to have a little bit more of a violent move towards, that way. So it's sometimes a contrarian way, but it's actually worked very good for me in my career. Now, the one thing that I'm looking for is I'm just kind of taking into consideration, right? I want to see what my call volume in comparison to my put volume is. Okay. All right, awesome. Almost, about even more on the call side. But I'm noticing that there's more put premiums, okay? So that is where I believe, okay, when you're talking about people hedging, right? They're not hedging on the downside because these are more expensive premiums, right? People in my estimation and how I've been doing hedges, and everyone's different. But when usually I hedge it, my call premium, whatever I'm going against it, is going to be usually cheaper and on the cheaper side. So when I see that the call premiums here are not as expensive as the put premiums, right? But there's more call volume, that is where, okay, right? That people could be hedging a little bit, but one thing that I do know is these put premiums are more expensive than what people are buying out there on the call side. And then what they also do is, if you know the emoji legends, you're also seeing that there's more premiums, right, on the bullish side than the put side. So there could be a couple things, right? This premiums, there could be more people selling puts, right? So when I do look at this is why I do it last, right? Is when I'm seeing that there's actually, even though that the premium side is heavier, right, on the put side, but when I'm seeing more bullish puts, okay, or more bullish premiums, I'm comparing that and kind of connecting the dots, saying, okay, well, there's just like here, it's a bull on the bone. Well, it's on the put side, right? So that's still going to be contributing to the put premium, but it's going to be triggering the bearish or the bullish premium for whale. So one thing that I'm recognizing is, okay, so even though there's more put premiums being had, there's probably more people selling these premiums, right, than they are buying them. And I actually kind of like the movement for the upside. Even that's why you got to kind of dive into all aspects, right? The first thing is, what is our volume, right? And you're seeing, okay, more call volume. And then I'm going to go see what's the actual premiums being spent out there. Well, there's more puts being spent. So, okay, so the puts, are going to be more expensive than these people that are buying these calls. But right, when I do see this, it's, oh, okay, so I actually immediately know when I see this being leveraged higher, and this basically is diverging from what the premiums are out there, then there's just more selling, right? So on the opposite realm, right, if this was super high, but the premiums on the bearish side was super high, then I would be thinking, okay, then people are selling calls. But when people are selling puts right now, but buying a lot of calls, in my mind, that's bullish. So sorry, I know that's a little bit like maybe too much, but
no,
that's kind of how, yeah.
Now, question.
But I like it.
Do you so when the VIX is up, implied volatility goes up as well. So on the premium. So when we have something like where the market is going up, but the VIX is dropping, do you have any way to kind of battle the implied volatility dropping on the premiums, or is that just something you track as the days go by?
Yeah, it's basically, especially lately, I have just started. So I basically told people like within my community that until the SPY broke above 447 2 consistent days, I wasn't going to be swinging anything, and it would be day trading. So when it was day trading, it was just kind of keeping up with what's going on. Now I'm actually trying to look for stocks that are hopefully moving in a little bit, are a little bit quiet in comparison to the entire market. And just like we did with like DD, right? And low, right? Low had a low implied volatility, even though it had significant movement along with the market. So when the market is this bullish, and I see something like a low, when low came out, and like I said, the alert came on the 18th. So we'll do it here, right? On the 18th. But on the 18th, what I've already noticed is, for me, as long as things continue to close outside the upper Bollinger Band, it's bullish for me. right? And when I saw that this continued to close, I go, okay, when I saw the option and I saw the price, I go, okay, if basically on the 19th, if we break the high of the previous day, right? And as long as the last hour of the day, we don't close below the previous candle's low, then I'm happy with going long on it. And that's what happened. And we did. And I kind of kept playing that up. And like I said, we'll go back into the low alert. The implied volatility was so low, but I also knew that the action in the market, right, was high, right? I mean, this low volatility, look at that, 0.22 or 22%. And that's also why sometimes you like to look for, I like to say stocks that are somewhat sleeping while the rest of the market is moving. So I had this DD alert that came in. Sorry, probably typing too fast. So DD came in and this $9 came in, and look where the implied volatility was, right? And now look what the implied volatility is, right? It's up at 100. So it's already gained, it's already literally it increased almost 30%. Since we got in it. So that's why it's so important for me to make sure that I'm getting in when the implied volatility is 75 or lower, because when things do jump up to this 100%, you'll see your option really feels it too, because this literally was a 0.23, and then it's got up to its high was actually at, like I said, 0.23. It got up to, what was the high? Sorry, it says it here somewhere. I'm just blanking. Oh, high was 100. So it's almost literally a 400% move, right? On your option. So that's why for me, it's so important, even though the market might be moving in either direction and things are really volatile, I don't want to be going and following these stocks that have, in crazy implied volatility. What I would like to do is, even with AMC, right, is wait for the implied volatility to drop down a bit when it is somewhat in the, in threshold realm. I don't know if that would ever happen with AMC, but other stocks that are moving, like a DD, right? A Lowe's, those kind of stocks, even Apple or Tesla, right? Look for stocks that don't have this crazy IV. And when they're moving with the market, you can find these kind of underlying players like you did with Lowe that had the delta at 90 and 11. It was a $12 stock. So basically every single time the option moved, you're basically getting like an 8 to 9% return. Every time the underlying moved $1. And when the stock is trading at $221, if you can just scalp dollar moves, and then now you're basically making an 8 to 9% return on your option within, a couple seconds, maybe a minute tops. So that's why, yeah, like you said, implied volatility, sorry, the dogs are barking, but implied volatility is so important. And I don't go implied volatility hunting. Actually, like I said, I like to hunt when things are a little bit more quiet. But at the same time, I'm not going to fight price action. That's why I got into DWAC today, because the social sentiment, the price action, the volume, it was there. So I'm not going to fight it either.
I love it. So we've got about 8 minutes left or so. For those that are maybe looking for some ideas, obviously everyone's got to go do their own due diligence and all that. But is there any flow that came in maybe towards the end of the day that may look interesting going into Friday? For, a lot of people like to play their lottos on Friday. Are there any ideas that the system generated on the maybe one or two stocks that the system generated a possible setup on, and then maybe how that looks on the TrendSpider chart, and maybe kind of seeing if there's any alignment there? Or Snap, was there any type of flow that suggested Snap was maybe going to have
crazy? Can I show you something? Can I show you something? Okay. Funny thing is, so this is what stood out. So basically when these alerts were coming, big one on the bullish, but I actually talked about this big put being bought. Okay. Because when it came in on the 18th, but it was 1 million. So in my mind, it wasn't really like someone was straddling it, didn't come in even at the same time as this other one at 902. And it was just weird because every other person was playing the bullish option to it, right? But no kind of huge money, right? The huge money was actually being sold, right? But this option alert that came in, and this person's going to be hurting. Let's be real. But this one came in, sorry, snap, I apologize. This put right here, sorry. And we talked about it, right? It was just something that I told the community. I did not play it. It wasn't that I was going to get into it, but I was just saying, very interesting that where everyone else is playing things to the bullish side, right? Snap wasn't having this kind of move, let's say. Oh man, it was funny. We actually had some people in our community be able to catch this around 53, 55, and they were able to actually buy it. So it's nice to see that it's at 59 now. But when I was seeing the calls, and I'll even go to the daily here. There just wasn't so much movement, right? It's kind of trading with the channel. I knew earnings were coming up, so I don't like to play earnings at all, right? But the price action, the volume wasn't really significant. But like I said, when this contrarian kind of came out, and then when you did look into the flow of Snap, a lot of people were selling calls. Obviously, there's going to be bearish probably now, but a lot of people were selling calls even leading up to this, right? And see, look at this. Look at this. Look at that, right? And these are big money, right? And these are people buying. And so what I'm noticing right now, just in the flow, is I'm getting more significant bearish action leading up to this earnings report here. And it's kind of a joke that I like to say is like, and Whale says it too, someone always knows, right? And that's what the whole idea about the whole DD thing was, right? When he sent this thing, this tweet out, when he sent this tweet out is, somebody just kind of always knows, like, and you don't know who it is, you don't know who's buying it, but this tweet that he sent out was literally like perfect, right? Because it made me at least feel that way, right? It made me feel like, hey, someone always knows. And he sent that out on the 12th. And DWAC, on the 20th, and DWAC ran significantly today. And when you went in and looked at other price movements in DWAC on the underlying, there was this huge volume spike on 10.7 as well. And then similar volume spike today. So, it's just kind of like a running joke, but there really is, it's kind of a joke that.
Do you think any of that is someone front running their own, their orders? Meaning, if somebody knows they're about to buy $50 million worth of common stock, they're probably going to drive up the price.
Yep.
Do they load up the calls before they start their buying campaign, or do you think it's mostly just someone?
Yeah, so DWC currently doesn't have any options available, but like when I do watch this one, so when I'm seeing super big flow in one direction, right, and it's contrarian to what the current price action is, one thing that I just want to look for is, are we having buying or selling action? And when we're having more buying action leading into something that's really going to be some kind of significant mover, it's interesting to me, because like you said, somebody kind of always knows. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't know, it's crazy. So DWAC, did that have an impact on snaps? Because I looked at the earnings report. I don't know if you had time to dive in. There wasn't, I know they missed on their forward earnings, but it wasn't to drop what, 20% after hours, almost 30% when it dropped down to 50 or 52 was insane. So, is there now this rollover where people are going to start to say, well, Snap is this other social media, now we're going to go to this DWAC thing? I don't know. So for me, I am not as good as fundamentals and news and all that kind of stuff. I'm a pure technical and price action trader. But the large moves, so I'm going to show you something really quick. So we're going to get into search, and what I'm going to show you is when I see big money coming in on some of these movements. So you'll see, look, so this is the average volume leading in on the 7th, right? And look at this, 562,000 was bought, and it was at the end of the day. And then yesterday, same thing, 695, right? And no other days were leading into it. So to me, that was, was it somebody's son buying stuff? Was it somebody in the know being told what to buy, right? But these kind of outliers, and actually Whale even tweeted about these outliers, and also if you're a Whale member, they give you alerts for significant outliers when there's some significant volume that's way out of the last 30-day volume. So this was something that kind of came up and was on my radar. It actually started being on my radar yesterday because of that. But yeah, I mean, but it's a great tool. But the one thing that I don't know if people, you have to make sure, the flow is the tool, but the charting is the confirmation. Charting for me is how I enter, how I exit, where I'm taking profits. It's amazing to get an alert in any aspect. Like, I'll be honest, like every single time I see you post a chart, I love it, but I make sure that I do my charting too, right? You got to make sure you're doing the charting in every fashion. That's why for me, having a charting platform and a good one is probably one of the most important and vital things out there. And that's what's so nice about TrendSpider is you guys are so intuitive. You guys are so awesome. And any questions I ever have, you guys get back to me right away.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we really appreciate you coming on and showing off how you use both the flow and the chart side of things, using Unusual Whales for the flow, and then the charting using TrendSpider. For those that are interested, we do have a bundle package going on. So definitely check out the chat for more information about the current bundle package and the link that you can go to check out that bundle. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at hello@trendspider.com. We can answer any of your questions about the sale or any technical questions about TrendSpider you have. We have the one-on-one demos as well. We have the free trial. So you really have nothing to lose giving this a shot. And Sean really did a great job showing how you can use both of these together and some pointers that he uses in the options market, especially the delta theta ratio. That was one I haven't really heard of before. So that is really, really good information. Thank you everybody for joining us, especially Sean coming on and spending his night with us, who's one of the founders of Shark of Traders. And any last words before we head out and see what tomorrow has to offer?
No, just basically, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. Every single time you guys come on our show, I always enjoy it. And yeah, making sure that you're having the proper tools in your tool belt is very important. And just like everyone, and just like we've talked about, chart, learn charting, right? When I finally was able to learn charting, learn different indicators, learn how they work for you, learn how they kind of have different movement on the market, it really just gave me a better understanding of technical analysis and really fall in love with it. So don't be scared of it. If you need anything, reach out to me. Jake is always there to help. And yeah, I'm excited, and thank you for having me. And I can't wait to keep seeing all the growth that TrendSpiders has in the future too.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate all the help you do spreading the word, and congrats on your guys' podcast. I love coming on once a month and chatting about the markets and just going over some charts. So looking forward to next month. And yeah, for anyone who's interested in the bundle deal, we posted that link in the chat. And once again, thank you so much for coming on and going over both these platforms. Thanks everybody for their time this evening, and have a great trading day into Friday. We are out, and everybody have a good night.